Welcome back to the Purpose Driven Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Robert Howell. Today's guest is Chad from Jeff Lynch Appliances. Chad has an incredible story of redemption from addiction, jail, prison, and rebuilding his life through faith, hard work, and second chances. Today, he's one of the top salespeople at Jeff Lynch, married, building a family, and helping inspire others through his journey. I'm excited to have Chad on. I think he's going to give us a bit of a different perspective than maybe some of the real estate investors that we have on. So join in, listen in, and Chad, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
All right. Like I said before, I'm really excited to have you. I think this is going to be a fun one, be a little bit different of a subject, but I think it'll be interesting and one that we can all learn from for sure. So let's start first with your early life, and talk about what your childhood was like growing up. Tell us a bit about where you're from, how you grew up, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, so I just turned 36 this past Sunday. So I'm from a little town called Barnwell, South Carolina. It's closer to like Aiken, Augusta area. I was born and raised there up until about 27 years old, and I ended up moving away from there. But good childhood. My parents got a divorce when I was 4, and my sister was 2. So we had a split household. But I had a good childhood. I lived with my mom for the most part until I was about 12 years old. And I remember my dad remarried, and his new wife had 2 sons that were really close to my age. And I would go over there every other weekend, and man, I would hate to leave because, I'm going back to my mom's house. I'm there with just my sister. I don't really have anybody to play with. So I really wanted to move in with my dad. And I think my dad was kind of already in the beginning stages of maybe trying to get custody of me. And when I was 12 years old, I was in a hunting accident. I was climbing up the deer stand, and I was with my stepdad climbing up the deer stand, and I dropped the rifle. Essentially what happened is I dropped the rifle, and it went off and hit me in the leg. And it was a 308 ballistic tip, and it all but killed me. I vividly remember it hitting my leg, falling out the deer stand. My stepdad ran over and picked me up. And I remember he went and set me down next to the truck, and he was kind of panicking, looking for his phone. And I took my pants off. I have no idea what told me to do this other than the Lord. I took my pants off, and my socks came off with my boots. And I remember seeing the hole in the back of my leg. So the entry wound was like maybe the size of a pin, and the exit wound was like big enough to put your fist in.
Dang.
And I remember seeing the blood just pouring out the back of my leg. And 12 years old, I'd never been trained on what to do, but for whatever reason, I took my socks and stuck them in that hole, and I took the legs of my pants and wrapped them around my leg, tied it up. And I remember telling my stepdad, we have to go, we got to go. So he got me up and put me in a truck, and we got to the hospital. And yeah, they flew me in a helicopter to MCG in Augusta, and that changed my life drastically. I was in the hospital for, I guess, a couple of months, and went through probably 9 surgeries altogether on my leg. And they ended up having to take stuff out of my right leg to replace the artery in my left leg. And I have a rod from my knee to my hip. My leg swelled up so big they had to cut both sides of my calf to relieve the pressure. And so yeah, I mean, it drastically changed my life. I never seen my stepdad again. My mom, I think that was the last time I ever seen him. He got to the hospital. I think a couple of days later, my mom told him she was done, to go pack his bags and leave. So I had actually finally reconnected with him a couple of years ago, but that was the last time I ever seen him. And when I got out of the hospital, I think my mom had some sort of a guilt for what happened, and they were already starting to go through the court processes of getting custody. And she just said, "You can take Chad home." To my dad, you can take him home. Mm. And so I lived with my dad from like 12 until I guess I was about 18 years old. Good childhood. My dad had a steel erection business and did very well for himself. He ended up going out of business around like 2018. I'm sure you remember, or no, 2018, 2008. I'm sure you remember everything that happened in 2008. But up until then, man, he really treated us boys, I think, in a way that he always wanted to be raised. He He bought us new vehicles when we were 15 years old, put lift kits and tires and rims on our 16th birthday, put all that on our truck. I mean, just treated us boys really, really well. And the goal was to, graduate high school and work for my dad. I ended up getting out of high school. I went to Trident Tech in Charleston for some just continuing education classes with blueprints. And then shortly after that, he went out of business. And it kind of turned things upside down. I bounced from job to job. And I remember around this same time, I would go to parties with my brothers, and my parents didn't really try to stop us from going for parties. They just said, "Hey, look, here's the deal. You boys always stick together, and you don't drink and drive. No matter what, if you're drinking and you need a ride, call us." And there would be occasionally where we'd have to call my stepmom. I call her mom now, but we'd have to call mom into 3 o'clock in the morning and say, "Hey, come pick us up." And she wasn't necessarily happy, but they were happy that we weren't driving.
Right.
So they didn't try to keep us from doing that kind of stuff, but they made sure we always stuck together. But I remember going to parties, and some kids had some pills, some hydrocodones or Percocets, whatever it was. I don't remember. And I remember taking them, and I was like, dang, these things make me feel pretty good. I bet I have some of these at the house from when I got shot. And so eventually I went to the house, opened up the cabinet, because they're just sitting there. My family was relatively oblivious to addiction. And so the pills are sitting there. I took them and would take them recreationally at parties and stuff, and it transformed into a full-blown addiction. By the time I was 18, 19 years old, I was a full-blown pill addict, and it continued to get worse every year. I was starting to experience withdrawals, but I would be able to fight through it, and then maybe the next year I'm starting to spend all my money on from my paycheck on pills. And then maybe the next year I'm starting to pawn all my stuff. And then eventually I'm starting to pawn all your stuff. I'm going to my grandparents' house, my parents' house, stealing change jars. I remember, it just continuously got worse. And I remember around 2016, I was introduced to fentanyl for the first time. Never heard of it before, didn't know what it was. I was calling the guy to see if I could get some Percocets from him, some pills from him, and he said, "No, I don't have any of that, but I have some Nol." I said, "I don't know what that is." He said, "Come on over to the house." So I got over there, and he gave me a little bag of fentanyl. I had no idea what it was. I said, "Do it. How much do I do?" He said, "Don't touch it. I'll be right back." And he went in and got a toothpick. And he took the toothpick and stuck it in the bag, and there was just a couple of grains on the end of it. He said, "That's all you need to do." And I said, "Man, I've been doing pills for years." He said, "I promise you, that's all you need to do." And I was hooked. I mean, as soon as I did it, it was 10 times stronger than Percocets and much cheaper. And I was hooked on fentanyl for about a year until he ended up going to prison. He went to jail, and I couldn't get fentanyl anymore. And the next best thing was heroin. So I ended up going and getting heroin one time, and I remember that day I got heroin. I was going through real bad fentanyl withdrawals, and I snorted all of it. And a buddy called me and said, "Hey, man, you feel better?" About an hour later, he called me, "You feel better?" I said, "No, I'm still going through withdrawals after snorting a bunch of heroin." And he said, "What'd you do, snort it?" And I said, "Yeah, what was I supposed to do with it?" He said, "Man, you got to shoot it." And so I remember going to his house and said, "I've never done this before. Do whatever you got to do to make me feel better." And I just gave him my arm, and he put it in my arm, and I was all of a sudden a heroin addict and a needle user. And I did that for a couple of years until the road ran out, and got caught selling heroin. I had heroin on me. I ended up finally getting hemmed up for distribution of heroin and possession of heroin, and also had some other small crimes. So I went to prison for a year, and I got out under the stipulations of going to rehab. And I remember I started reading my Bible again, and I was always a Christian, but I didn't have a relationship with Jesus. I had that kind of like back road Baptist. You go to church on Sunday morning. It doesn't really matter what you do on Saturday night as long as you're at church on Sunday morning type of relationship. Right. And I started generating and creating a relationship with Jesus on my own understanding while I was locked up, just reading the Bible, because that's all I could do. And I remember when I had the opportunity to go to rehab, I told my mom, "I just want to go to a faith-based place." And so she Googled faith-based place, best faith-based place, faith place in the world, or maybe in the United States, and Greenville popped up number one at Miracle Hill Overcomers.
Wow.
And so she called up there, and within a few months, I was showing up at the front door, which that place was a blessing, man. 7-month program, faith-based, and it really redefined my relationship with Jesus. So, yeah, I mean, that's a little bit about my past and where I'm at, and, at least how I got into Greenville today.
Man, that's quite the story of transformation, and we're just starting to touch on it, but I appreciate you sharing that. I imagine there's quite a few people out there that need to hear that story and need to hear that hope that you can share with people today, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So what, during that time, at what point did you realize, man, I need a complete change here?
I never did until I was locked up, to be honest with you. And and people say, I hear parents talk about how they pray that their son or their daughter gets caught and go to jail, their son or daughter that's in recovery or that's in addiction. And really, that's the only thing that changed me, man, just the absence of having it around me. It changed me long enough to where I could get it clear-minded. Mm-hmm. And I think if I would have got out within the first 5 months, I probably would have went right back to it. But I'd been about a year, about maybe 9 months sober, and I just knew that there was something else out there for me, and I did not want to go back to use. Now, with that being said, I'm sure if I would have went back to the same people, places, and things, that my circumstances would have been different, and I would have relapsed. But I knew that if I got out, I had to get away from everybody in that general area. I had to stop talking to those people, make new friends. And so really that's what changed everything, getting locked up and just having a clear mind for about 6 months.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about...
I tried to do it on my own. Let's be honest. The best I can do for myself is be a heroin addict in prison. So I tried to do it on my own. A lot of times we do. But that's how it really changed for me, is being locked up.
Being locked up. And, going to God, I imagine, right? And
that's saying, right. Hey, absolutely.
Just help me.
Yes.
All right. And Miracle Hill, I love that. So let's talk about the impact of Miracle Hill and what you learned there, and kind of what path that led you on as you finished up. I think you said 7 months, right?
Yeah, it's a 7-month program, man. And it's very, in the beginning of it, it's very simple things, such as you wake up the same time every day and you do really, really simple things like make your bed and line your shoes up under your bed, and you tuck your shirt in, you wear a belt, and these things kind of sound stupid, but it's little small goals that they teach you to create at the beginning of the day, and throughout the day you're just achieving more and more goals. And I guess the biggest thing for Miracle Hill is the fact that it doesn't cost anything to go there. I mean, it's free. I mean, you and I pay for it. People in the community pay for it. There's about 100 guys that are there consistently, 80 to 100 guys, and they help you understand Jesus in a way that I'd never understood him before. They help you build a relationship with Jesus in a way that I had no idea before. And the good thing about it is everybody is kind of everybody is, that you heard the saying, everybody is level at the foot of the cross, but everybody is even there. You have guys who came in because they're homeless. You have guys who came in because they're in prison. There's guys who own $1 million businesses, and they're there just on the same playing level as you. And so, I guess the biggest thing for me is the fact that they help you understand Jesus in a different way, and they help you build some accountability partners.
Love that. Talk about that a little more. You talked and touched on a little bit, like there's a difference between religion versus a relationship with Jesus. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, the relationship with Jesus is, so for religion, I don't even really like the word religion, because it's, once again, that back road Baptist type of understanding, to where Jesus is something that I genuinely, I talk to him on a day-to-day basis. I have a relationship with him. I depend on him, and I understand that things are not always going to be on my time. I think the biggest thing for a relationship is just depending on Jesus when I can't depend on myself.
Yep, 100%. What helped you stay focused after the rehab?
Well, it's funny you say that. I got out and I was really close to going back home. I almost went back to Barnwell. And I had a couple of guys that I went through that program with that was working at Jeff Lynch, and they convinced me to fill out an application. And I went up there, and of course, I got the job. Mark Lynch is the owner of the store, and he said, "I don't really have anything for you to do, but I'll hire you, and you can work in the warehouse." And so I started working in the warehouse, and the biggest thing is the community that I was around. I got out, and I'm around guys who know my vulnerabilities. They understand. It's hard for me to come to work with a problem, and it's hard for me to leave work with a problem, because they was with me at level one as we was going through the Overcomer program, and they know all my vulnerabilities, and they know all my weaknesses and my strengths. And so I guess the biggest thing for me is having a really good relationship and network of guys who will call me out on my bull crap if I need to be called out on, but they'll also lift me up. And I think it's very important for a man, I don't care how old or young he is, to hear another man tell him that he's proud of him. And so to have a group of guys that say, "Hey man, I'm really proud of what you did here, or what you did there, or what you said here," and I think it's very empowering. And I had a great group of guys, and my family as well. I was able to rebuild a lot of relationships that I had in my family with my parents and my brothers. But I think the biggest thing is having guys around me that would hold me accountable.
That's great. That's great. So talk about Jeff Lynch, and you started in the warehouse. Now you're one of the top salespeople there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I try to finish. I think there's about 30 salespeople, and I try to finish within the top 3 to 5 every month. Yeah, that's my goal every month.
That's great.
Yeah, I've been there for, I guess, going on 8 years, and I started in the warehouse. I didn't really know what I was going to do with my life. I just went to work at this appliance store, and I had great guys working around me. And I thought about leaving so many times, man, because I wanted more opportunities to make more money. And what was so hard about me leaving is I felt like I was leaving everything that I knew behind. All these guys that some of these guys were roommates with me. Some of them, they helped me work through my steps. And it was more than just a job for me, and I thought about leaving a number of times. I had some opportunities to leave. Thank God I didn't. But I started aggravating Mark about going into sales, because I remember being in delivery, and I remember delivering to sales guys' houses. And I remember thinking, man, these guys must be doing pretty good. I mean, one guy was living in the cliffs and living in the country clubs and, nice houses. And I remember thinking, these guys must do pretty good for themselves. So maybe since I'm already here, and I'm already starting to build a little bit of a reputation, maybe I need to stay here and see what I can do. So I started aggravating Mark about it. And I'm a big golfer. So I remember we have a Labor Day and Memorial Day golf tournament that's for the salespeople every year. And what they do is they invite salespeople, and then they invite like the reps from Frigidaire and Sub-Zero and Wolf, and sometimes like I remember the vice president of Tempur-Pedic came one year, and we do this. They don't really let the delivery guys and the warehouse guys play in it, because it's an opportunity for the salespeople to build a relationship with the reps. And I remember aggravating Mark about letting me play in it, and he said, "Well, maybe next year." I was like, "Man, I really want to." And finally, I think somebody dropped out, and I got to play in it.
Let's go.
Yeah, and I let one of my friends, I said, "Hey, Mark, I got a friend that's also in the warehouse. His name's Chris Poole, and he's a great golfer too. If you have one more spot, it'd be great if you could let him play in it too." And so, I'm already pushing the envelope now, but somehow he let us both play in it. And my team ended up finishing in first place. Chris's team came in second place. I think I won closest to the pin in the long drive. Chris's team won a putting contest and another closest to the pin. What basically happened is we wiped the board and took all the prizes, And I remember just feeling so overwhelmed, and everybody was happy for us. I mean, it wasn't all the sales guys was patting us on the back and cheering for us. They really enjoyed watching us win. And I remember leaving at the golf course at Willow Creek, and Mark called us at the door and said, "Hey, I like winners on my team, and both of you guys are winners. So you're coming into sales. I don't know when, but I'm working on a spot in the sales floor for the both of you."
No way.
I remember getting in my truck and just crying my eyes out, because that's really what I wanted. I'd been trying to do that for some time. it took me about another 8 or 9 months for him to let me come into sales. He had plans. He had to wait for somebody to retire, but both of us are in sales now. And ironically, Chris Poole is now the store manager over everybody there. So yeah, I mean, both of us are in sales now and doing great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's the lesson there? Is it persistence or is it being good at golf?
Probably a little bit of both. It's funny you say that. All the warehouse guys, come up to me and was like, "Hey man, what can I do?" I'm like, "Man, you gotta learn how to play golf, man." But no, it's persistence, man. Yeah, it's definitely persistence and being patient with God. I remember Mark. I was aggravating him about coming into sales, and I guess he knew I needed a putter. He had this nice Scotty Cameron putter, and he called me in his office like a month or two later and said, "Hey, I got this putter for you. You can have it. This is just for being patient. Just continue to be patient and wait on me." And so I guess that is the moral of the story, is to be patient and wait on God. God had his plans,
Yeah.
God's plans and his ways of working, they are frequently beyond our ability to understand or fathom. But if you trust in him when you don't understand, or when I don't understand, he typically can guide and direct you in a way that is good and worthy and honorable and just good for you in general.
That's great. That's a great lesson, and patience, persistence, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about real estate investors and business. We've clearly worked together over the years, and you've been a great partner in our business as we do flips, and we're doing more new land home packages. So we haven't had the opportunity to work together in the last several months. But let's talk about how do you help real estate investors and developers through your role at Jeff Lynch, and I guess builders too.
Yeah, man, I love working with these guys. So my biggest role in sales is to make the builder or the flipper or someone like you look like a hero when the customers come in. And I don't know why builders would send their clients out to shop for appliances and not send them in. They don't necessarily have to send them into Jeff Lynch, but sending them into a professional place with professional salespeople, because we roll out the red carpet. When your clients come in, we're going to roll out the red carpet and make you look like a hero. And if there's a problem that arises later on down the road, my job as a salesperson is to jump on the grenade and make the builder look good, even if it's not my fault. But the biggest thing is, I get the blueprints in front of me, and I help the client kind of walk through their selections, send the specs over to the builder. But I also look at things within the specs like door swings and how close walls are to refrigerators. And these are things that oftentimes you don't know until you get the appliances in the house and you put the refrigerator in there and you got to open it and it's hitting the wall.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, man, that changes everything. Like, now my refrigerator's not going to match. And I mean, it just creates a lot of problems. So the biggest thing for me is trying to make the builder look really good, or making someone like you look really good from your client's perspective.
That's great, and I can attest to that. And we're not a builder per se, but we've renovated a lot of houses, and Chad has really helped to select the right appliances, and then transparently, when it wasn't the right appliance, come and make a switch, right? And
absolutely.
No questions asked. Let's get you the right solution. So I love that. What are some of the mistakes that investors are making? You kind of touched on it, but why don't we expand on that? The mistakes that investors or builders, developers are making when they're selecting appliances for projects.
Yeah, it would primarily be not understanding door swings and sizes and stuff like that. Everything's not standard anymore. And I guess that would be the biggest thing for builders sending their clients in. Or another thing is the online shopping, letting their customers just go online and pick whatever they want to pick. I guess that would be the biggest thing.
Okay, got it. How do you help investors maximize value while staying on their budget?
I guess with rebates, every builder, every real estate guy, someone like you, they're going to qualify for rebates and different prices on things. And so I try to maximize it by giving you a really good price up front, the best price that you can possibly get, and then giving your clients or the builder the rebates that they may qualify for that. A lot of times people don't understand how the rebates work. And sometimes, the builder actually forgets about them. Like, I had this builder the other day that bought some more cafe appliances, and I said, "Hey man, did you fill out that rebate the other day?" We did a job like a month ago. Did you do that? And he was like, oh my gosh, I forgot all about it. That's like $2,000, man. I was like, yeah, you got to go do that right now. So I guess maximizing the value would be reminding them things about their rebates. And then another thing is just giving them a good price up front. Like one of the good things that we do at Jeff Lynch is we price match for 30 days after delivery, up to 30 days after delivery. So let's say someone comes in today and they buy a refrigerator and it goes down $400 for Memorial Day. You'll qualify for that, and I'm attentive to those type of things. So a lot of times I'll call a customer. I just did this the other day. A customer came in, she paid for her appliances, and she was leaving. And I just said, well, I need the price, just make sure all the prices are right. If they're higher, I'm going to leave them the way they are. But if they're lower, she needs to know that. And so I go back looking through all the prices, and the refrigerator was like $700 less than what it was when she put the deposit down. So I ran out the parking lot and was like, hey, you need to come back in here. I owe you $700. So, and I do that same thing with builders too, right? Trying to maximize their return. Yeah.
I love that. Speaking of rebates, we need to check our rebates for my house that I renovated recently.
See there, you didn't do it.
I just can't remember doing it.
Yeah, anyhow, we need to check on it.
We'll get on that. All right, let's talk about purpose and what drives you. So tell me what success means for you today versus maybe what success was for you earlier in life.
Well, I think a lot of young men, maybe just people in general, believe that success is based off of a dollar amount. And for my whole life, I thought that, hey, once I start making six figures or more, or once I buy me a house or get X, Y, Z, then I'll be happy. It's primarily the good job, And I remember getting into sales. And of course, I mean, I'd strive for that for a long time. And I remember that was my biggest goal, is to get into sales at Jeff Lynch. And I got there, and I thought, maybe I need a truck. I need something else in my life. So, I go out and buy a truck, and that made me happy for a little while. And then the new car smell went away. And then I'm like, well, I want to get married. And so I got married. And what I found out is I'm just throwing stuff in my life. Sometimes it's garbage. Sometimes it's good things, but nothing was making me happy. And I think I was about 3 years into sales. I was making more money than I could have ever possibly imagined. Got a beautiful house, a beautiful wife. I got 2 dogs, nice vehicles, and I was depressed. Like, I had never experienced depression before in my entire life, but I didn't like waking up. I didn't like going to work. I felt like I was trapped there because, now I got all these responsibilities, and maybe I need another job, and God knows I can't make this kind of money anywhere else. And so I ended up getting in this weird depression, and never experienced that before in my life. And the only way I was really able to get out of that was starting to depend and lean on God and starting to rebuild that relationship with Him. I guess the biggest thing that I noticed is I stopped reading my Bible. I stopped listening to praise and worship music. There was a time where I just couldn't even remember when the last time I had talked to God. And so, I think that's the biggest thing for me, is success is not based off of anything that I can obtain or that I can get. Success is based off of joy. And I genuinely believe that comes from the Lord, and you can't get it from anywhere else.
Love that. That's so true. And that consistency of a relationship makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. He makes me a good husband. And obviously I fall short. Sometimes I come home and I don't feel like doing anything but sitting down, but he makes me a good husband. He makes me a good friend. He makes me a good salesperson. I 100% agree with you.
All right, let's move to some rapid fire questions as we conclude here. We'll start with, what's your favorite Bible verse?
John 3:16, the world's best Bible verse.
Love it. Love it. All right. What's the biggest sales lesson that you've learned?
The biggest sales lesson that I learned. So I watched this, that guy that's on Shark Tank. I guess it's not going to be a quick answer, but the guy that's on Shark Tank, his name's Robert. I watched a podcast with him one time, and he was talking about good salespeople. And he said, you have 3 different types of salespeople. You have good salespeople who sell features. They know what the product is, and they're really good at selling that specific thing. They're oftentimes good good retail salespeople. A lot of times you see those type of guys bounce from like maybe a used car dealership to selling appliances, maybe selling solar panels, stuff like that. And every place needs that, especially retail places. Then you have great salespeople. They sell outcomes, so they know what the features are, and they know how it may or may not help your life. And then the top 1%, like I want to categorize myself in the top 1%. The top 1%, they sell feelings. They understand what the customer's emotional needs are, and they're able to own the relationship with the customer because they know that. Like a great example of that is just yesterday, and I was thinking about this podcast. Yesterday, I had a customer come in, and I didn't remember their name, but I remember what I sold them, and it had been about 2 years. And I remember her and her husband came in, and they had a daughter that was in a wheelchair. And sold a Monogram appliances. She came up to the desk and said, "I don't know if you remember me or not." I said, "Yes, ma'am, I absolutely do. I don't remember her name, but I said, yeah, I remember. I sold you Monogram appliances." She said, "Oh my gosh, yeah, you're right, you did. I love my appliances." She's like, "But I need a new washer and dryer. Well, I didn't buy one from you, so we need a new washer and dryer." And I said, "Okay." So I remember I'm getting ready to walk her. I said, "I'll meet you at the end of the sales counter." And between walking at the sales counter and walking to meet her, I'm trying to think about what is something that I can bring up to relate to her. And I remember that her daughter was in the wheelchair. So as I greet her, I said, "All right, let's go take a look." I said, "Look, Speed Queen, my opinion, Speed Queen's going to be the best top load, best washer and dryer that you can get. With that being said, for your daughter, I don't know if that's going to be the most reliable, best one for her because she wouldn't be able to get in and out of it as much or as easy." And she said, "You remember that my daughter, Leah, is in a wheelchair?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I do." And she just could not believe that. When we got done, she hugged me and she said, "I'll never shop anywhere else again." And so it's owning that's things like that. I'm not using that to manipulate her, but I'm owning a relationship because I remember simple things like that about her.
Well, yeah, and you care about it, right? It's not
Absolutely.
just to close the deal. It's really what's best for her daughter, right? Which is really powerful, for sure.
Yeah, I've got customers now. I've been in sales long enough now to where I have customers. I had this lady. Her name's Miss Beth. One of my first customers I ever had, her and her husband came in, and I send them Christmas cards all the time. You know, every year I send them Christmas cards and stuff. And she called me like maybe 6-8 months ago and said, "I have bad news." I said, "What happened? Something wrong with your appliances?" She said, "Well, yeah, but my husband passed away. Mr. Lee passed away." I said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know that." She said, "Yeah." She said, "The refrigerator's making a weird noise. I should have called you a while back ago to let you know this, so I'm sorry about telling you now." But she was like, "Well, I do actually need something. My refrigerator's making a weird noise, and we've already had it serviced one time. I don't want to have strange guys in and out the house. Me and Lee both trusted you. We trusted your opinion. I'm just going to give you my card number. Whatever you think my husband will want in the house, send it out." And I was like, "Okay." I mean, you know, so it's like having relationships like that with customers. Yeah, I genuinely do care about them, you know?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. All right. What is one habit that changed your life?
One habit that changed my life. Prayer. Yeah, prayer. And it consistent until this day, it still changes my life, you know? Difficult days, they demand decisions of faith, and maybe I pray about it and it goes away, you know?
Love it. All right. What's the best advice that you've ever received?
The best advice I've ever received. Maybe it's that we are unable to impact the world that's influencing us.
Got it. All right. Last two questions here. What does purpose-driven investing mean to you? Purpose-driven, it doesn't have to be investing. Purpose-driven.
Purpose-driven is being a leader, being an authentic man. Sometimes it means submitting to authority. But I guess the biggest thing about it is investing eternally, investing in things that are going to contribute to my eternal life, and to the people that's around me, invest in their eternal life as well.
Love it. Love it. All right, last question here, and I think this one is real important. But if someone's listening that's struggling right now with addiction or whatever it may be, what would you tell them?
Surrender. That is the biggest thing, man. Knowing that you have an issue, knowing that you have a problem, and that's not a secret. Anybody that's struggling with drugs, deep down we know we have a problem. The biggest thing would be surrender. Surrender to Jesus. Talk to that. You know, talk about it with one of your friends, with someone you look up to. But the biggest thing would be genuinely surrender and repent.
That's great. Well, Chad, I really appreciate your honesty today. I honestly, I didn't even know about all this, and it's really great to hear. I think it's really powerful, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. And your story's proof that people can change, they can rebuild, and they can create an incredible life no matter where they start. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us. If people want to reach out to you, where can they reach you? How can they reach you? What's the best way to get in contact?
Yeah, so we're changing some stuff up at Jeff Lynch now because the owner of the store is entering into politics, and so now his son is taking over, and so we're kind of getting a new twist on things at the store. Obviously, you can always call the store and ask for Chad. You can always send me an email, a super easy email address, chad@jefflynch.com. But now our website's a little bit different. We have like a meet and greet area on our website. You can always just click on my page and it can just direct you directly to my email. But yeah, or obviously Facebook. I have an Instagram now. The first time I had Instagram, I'm kind of managing the Jeff Lynch Instagram, so you can always email or text that one as well, or message the Instagram there too.
That's great. Well, guys that are listening, and girls, I'd encourage you to reach out to Chad if you're an investor, builder, developer. You're looking for a great partner in the appliance world. He's the guy to go to. So I'd definitely recommend to reach out. And if you're struggling and you just want to have a conversation, I'm sure you're open to that.
Absolutely.
Conversation
Absolutely. Too. Even more so.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining, and thank you for everyone listening today. Have a great day.
Thank you, brother.